Olá, sejam muito bem-vindos e muito bem-vindas a mais um episódio do Dhub Talks. E é um prazer estar aqui hoje com você que nos ouve ou nos assiste no Spotify, no YouTube ou na sua plataforma de preferência. Estamos aqui hoje com Josh Bowron e Britton Marlatt. É um prazer ter eles aqui hoje e como eles são mais alguns entrevistados gringos, eu vou ter que trocar para o inglês. E se você ainda não tá com o inglês tinindo, não se preocupe. É só assistir a gente no YouTube e colocar a legenda que você vai conseguir assistir ao episódio com as legendas em português. So, Josh, Britton, it is a pleasure having you here today. And just welcoming our English-speaking audience, it is a pleasure having you here at the Hub Talks. So, just a quick explanation to how we ended up together here at this room. You've joined the RISE MBA program and decided, well, let's go to Brazil. And how was that? How was the decision to come to Brazil? Was that a choice at all?
Yeah, not much of a choice other than it is our global field experience through the RISE MBA program. So we're in between years 1 and 2, and every cohort goes to a different country.
Cool.
And so ours was Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we're excited.
You know, like they tease it all along the way, like, hey, we're going to reveal it to you guys. You got to wait. They keep you on your toes, and they told us around, I think, February, January or so.
Were you happy to find out that it was Brazil?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can't lie.
No, I mean, unlike Greg, I'm not a Spanish speaker, so anywhere would have been fine for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I've never been
good.
to South America, so.
Oh, this is a
excited to be
first for
here.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
Same.
Welcome to Brazil then. And so, Josh, you do have a background in business, and I know that you've been working in the power sector, and you've seen a company grow from like 12 people to what, 800?
Not quite 800, a little less than 300. Yeah, so I started right out of school with a small company. It was when I joined probably roughly 20 people, and have been there ever since. So it's been 8 years. And yeah, we're grew really fast. It was great to see. We're in a kind of new side of power called microgrids,
Cool.
small distributed power, dual purpose microgrids. Basically, a microgrid is an asset that's capable of producing power, generating power, and being synchronous with the grid, with a broader grid. So exporting power onto the grid, as well as isolating itself from that grid and providing power to a local industrial or commercial facility.
I think
or
you
town.
should look into the Brazilian market, because I do know that we have a large market for the power industry in itself.
Yeah,
And so
yeah. You guys
I'm
have a very robust power market. Yeah, actually, one of our other teams is partnered with really a power provider. I guess we
Oh,
call
cool.
them retail electric providers in the U.S., but a power provider here in Brazil. And I actually kind of answered a few initial questions while they were getting started.
We should charge them for the consultancy hours.
Yeah.
And you, Britton, you come from a biomed background, and you've been doing some fun stuff with AI and data science. So tell us a little bit about that, because for lawyers, we see AI as just another buzzword.
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, being an MBA program, AI has almost become a buzzword to me too. I luckily kind of got introduced to it in graduate school. I really think the German-speaking world was really kind of advanced in the AI.
Really?
Yeah, in the sense of
I'm surprised to hear
applying
that.
it, yeah, in the medical industry. And so like my master's was actually focused around image-guided therapy, but I kind of did a subspecialty in AI medical imaging. That's where I did like all my graduate research, my thesis. So upon completing that, I found like a job that kind of perfectly aligned with my research interests then in Houston, which is my hometown. So it was kind of funny how it worked out. But yeah, so a lot of people don't know about Houston. Is actually the largest, it's the largest medical facility between the different hospitals there in the world. I mean,
Cool.
in terms of operations done per year. It's the only place you can find, I think, definitely in Texas, but probably in the U.S., where you can find kilometers per hour posted with the speed limit signs because of how international it is. But yeah, so we get access to a lot of privileged data sets and can make use that to train models that can then help clinicians at the point of care. And so one of the kind of gray areas that we see is like when you want to anonymize medical imaging as the best you can, and we do that. But one of the things that's tricky about it is when we have like a 3D scan, you can actually see the contours of people's faces. So that's really difficult to come around in terms of like
Data protection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's one tricky area that we see, but we kind of see it as a, really as a public good, because it allows, kind of analogous to, airplanes in the 70s in terms of like autopilot.
Okay.
AI in medicine can allow more procedures to be done, catch more mistakes, and basically allow. It's not replacing doctors, but it's allowing them to see more patients and more care to be accessed by the public.
So more, better, faster.
Yeah.
Not replacing humans,
Yeah.
just helping them.
Exactly.
But funny that you mentioned AI and it not being a buzzword, hopefully, and that good that we have businessmen and an expert here, because AI has been a growing trend, I think, even in the legal sector. But my concern as a legal professional and coming from the legal background myself is, are we just doing it because it's good business, or are we doing good use of this technology? And thinking about like the data protection issues, but I also think about how generative AI in particular can, we call it hallucinations, but let's say create an answer that's not necessarily true. So from a business standing point, it might be profitable, but is it as safe as it could be? Can we start using it? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I'll go first from a layman.
Please do.
I've certainly used a fair share of AI tools, ChatGPT and whatnot, and have been extremely impressed with it and its accuracy. And to your point, have seen times where it is wrong. And so I think the old saying of trust but verify is definitely something that is should be used still, and I'm sure it will be. It's definitely not going to, at least at this time, be comfortable enough to replace something like a legal contract that you're going to just sign a dotted line on the bottom of it after it was spit out of an AI program. But it is extremely helpful for myself when summarizing things that I may not see. So I look at, like in the power sector, a lot of like utility tariffs, and utility tariffs are notoriously just ridiculously long. And so you can upload that PDF and say, what does a secondary rate customer have to pay between hours 7 p.m. and 10 p.m.? And it'll spit back kind of where that is in that section and what that rate is. And so it at least points me to where I need to go. So
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, at least I haven't used a lot of the advanced GPTs.
Okay.
I've been using a lot of like, 3 and maybe 4. I think I think it works ridiculously well, and that's why you've seen it. Like it's the fastest growing platform, I think, in the history of the world. I think though that one challenge that might be presented in the near future is that there's so much being produced with ChatGPT now, and we know that with AI models, they start to devolve quickly whenever you give it training inputs that are AI generated themselves.
Yeah.
So given now, like, how it's proliferated with AI, generated, partially or fully, web pages, articles, so on, art, once it starts training on these new, data points, it could devolve. That's a risk for sure.
Okay, interesting take, because I think most people don't know that. Particularly, I've been researching it a lot myself, so I know that if it does continue the way it is, it will come to that pivoting point and it will start de-evolving, especially depending on the use. And then there's a lot that goes into like prompt engineering and you asking the right question and just posing the correct question. If you're coming from a research background, you already know to neutralize your questions. But if you're just a layman in how to ask questions, it might be struggling for you to actually do a good prompting and have even a summary sped out correctly. But interestingly, you mentioned documents, Josh, which is all you've been working with Vita. And so I would like to know your takes on how it's been working on this project. So for whoever just landed here, Josh and Britton have been working on a project with Vita, our legal design company. And I would just like to know your personal takes on legal design, if you've ever had contact with it, and would you feel, I don't know, for instance, more inclined to signing a document that comes in that type of format?
Yeah, so I had not ever heard of the formal term of legal design.
Interesting.
Like informational design, maybe, but nothing legal design.
Which is not too far from it.
Yeah, similar for sure. Different, just more specific application, I guess. But yeah, I've been impressed with Vita in general, but just the concept of legal design is very intriguing. I actually, in my work, I'm in commercial structuring side, so I deal with a lot of contracts in general. And as somebody that went to business school and not law school, summarization and animation of that would be very beneficial to me. But I've been impressed. I think there are certain use cases that make a ton of sense. I think one, for example, that you showed on an employment contract that's summarized down to kind of the first sense as an employee for a new company. They send you an employment contract, and it a lot of times can be just a legal document you have to read. Being able to summarize that into a way that somebody can quickly understand and also looks great at the same time makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's a lot of use cases like that out there.
Yeah. And the problem you mentioned about asking ChatGPT to summarize something, just imagine if everything already came with a one-pager that we normally do. You wouldn't have to go through the struggle of like prompting and having it spit out a information, and perhaps you should be checking it if that summarization is actually correct. So if the document already comes with a one-pager, you will know that this is correct because it reflects the same information. So it could be helpful at some points. Do you have a different opinion, Britton?
I was never, I guess, per se, aware of the legal design industry, although that same school in Stanford where like the design, thinking came from. I had a textbook in college that was like biodesign, and it came from that Stanford school. So like that idea of, thinking with the design frame of reference, definitely resonated. I got to visit Stanford with Rice a few months ago, and I met somebody from that same school, and she gave a talk about a company she spun off of that lab. But so I was introduced to the design thinking, but I wasn't necessarily aware of the legal design industry. And I think it provides incredible value to the end user. I think that to help avoid, to easily explain things, and I think that it ultimately will help the bottom line of the companies that would use it, because it would create more trust with their brand, with the end user.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think that all of those options, like design thinking and thinking about legal design itself, is just such a good combination, and it has so much room to grow still. But I am happy that we introduced you to that. And just as a wrap-up question, what did you think of like working with Vita and coming to Brazil? How has this experience of this particular project and being here been for you?
Yeah, I'll go first again.
Sure.
Yeah, you wrap it up. It's been great. We've been looking forward to it forever. I think I forget, maybe in March is when we got assigned Vita, and we've been super pumped and super thankful for you for our Friday calls, and while we were in the States and you were here, and every Friday talking, and been looking forward to actually getting in country and seeing the offices and everything. This place is awesome. You have a podcast studio.
Come visit our place. You have to come to São Paulo, Brazil.
It is awesome. And Sao Paulo too. Sao Paulo is awesome. Huge metropolitan, like just massive city. We were very surprised. I knew there was whatever it is, 12 or 13 million people, but you don't really know that size until you get here. And beautiful, and the weather is fantastic coming from Houston right now. It's probably almost 100 degrees there, 95 degrees there.
Coming in on Brazilian winter, so
yes,
refreshing.
Very nice. But yeah, we've loved it, and y'all have been super great and hospitable, and it's been great.
Yeah, we've loved working with y'all. Especially you, Isabella. You've been great with us. Yeah, and giving us all the information we need, and supporting us on our Friday calls. And we love Sao Paulo. Like Josh said, I mean, the weather. It's really hard to put wrap your mind around like how huge the city is, though. You get at like a little bit of elevation, you just kind of look in every direction, and there's like 50,000 skyscrapers. Like you start Googling like, wow, fourth largest city in the world potentially.
You have to look directly up in order to see the sky.
But yeah, love the experience so far. It's amazing how there's like different, like the food options, like the Japanese, the Lebanese, the Brazilian food. It's been great.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot of Houston in that sense. Houston's a very diverse city in the U.S. from a culture perspective, and Sao Paulo is definitely very diverse.
Yeah, and we say you can find any type of food anytime at any given day
Yeah.
in São Paulo.
Yeah, we've
So
seen that.
it's been such a pleasure having you here, hosting you for this podcast and having you in our workplace. I think we had a lot of fun working together. And for you that kept up with this episode all the way through the end, it has been also a pleasure hosting you here today. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Hub Talks. E para nossa audiência brasileira que também ficou até o final, foi um prazer estar aqui com vocês hoje para mais um episódio do The Hub Talks.